This is the portion of our service that we set aside for a look at Bible prophecy. We've been doing this for almost going on 2 years now. How time flies when you're having fun. We made the commitment to look at Bible prophecy because we see that much of that which is taking place in the world today was foretold by the prophets of old, primarily, as well as Jesus himself, that there would be certain things that would be present in the last days in the world, and these signs, if you will, would mark the end of time as we know it, and it would be a sign for the soon return of Jesus Christ. We look at Israel. It's God's prophetic clock, as it's been called. And today I'd like to talk about a recent event that you may have heard about. Former President Jimmy Carter's trip to the Middle East. Some of you are already shaking your head. Now, I'm not going to get political here. Joel Rosenberg is. Let me quote from his blog spot on his website. He called Jimmy Carter, quote, America's worst ex-president. What is it about evil he doesn't understand? He goes on to say, this week, Mr. Carter clinched the title of worst ex-president in American history. Worse than Clinton, worse than Nixon, worse than Hoover. The former peanut farmer from Georgia conclusively demonstrated this week that he has absolutely no ability to discern evil from good. Hamas, an acronym for the Islamic Resistance Movement, is a radical jihadist organization of the worst kind, dedicated to the utter annihilation of the Jewish state and the Jewish people. And as you may know, he paid a visit to his friends, Hamas, to try to make peace with them and to have them make peace with Israel. Don't email me, by the way, about this. You could email Joel Rosenberg about this if you have some concerns and are offended by this commentary on this former president. USA Today had an article that read, Carter, Hamas can live in peace with Israel. Former President Jimmy Carter ended his contentious Mideast shuttle Monday with few tangible results. Hamas turned down his request to halt rocket fire on Israel for a month, or to help speed up talks on the release of a captured Israeli soldier. Instead, Hamas leaders reiterated a pledge to accept a peace deal with Israel, provided it is approved in a Palestinian referendum, and also offered a 10-year truce if Israel withdraws from the West Bank and Jerusalem. So, notice again the 10-year truce that I have underlined and highlighted. I want to come back to that. You might want to put that in your hip pocket for just a moment. So what's the big deal? What does Jimmy Carter's trip to the Middle East and talks with Hamas have to do with Bible prophecy? Does it fit in with Bible prophecy? I believe it does, possibly. Here's why. There's something that has come out of this meeting with Hamas that heretofore has never happened before. For the first time in history, an enemy devoted to Israel's extermination has offered not only a peace deal, but a peace deal for a certain number of years. Now, here's why that's so important and why it possibly fits into Bible prophecy. There is a prophecy in the book of Daniel. The prophet Daniel declares in the first part of chapter 9, verse 27, that he, speaking of the Antichrist, will confirm a covenant, a peace covenant, a peace agreement with many for 1/7, a period of 7 years. Now, what's interesting about that is that all the peace agreements on the table have never had a period of years attached to them like this declaration by Hamas coming out of this trip by ex-President Jimmy Carter. Now, you have to understand that when the Arabs say peace, it does not mean the same thing as when you or I or a Jew says peace. Peace to them means something entirely different. Now, it's interesting that the prophet Daniel would describe a peace agreement by the Antichrist with Israel and the surrounding nations around Israel for a period of 7 years. Because, see, the goal of this peace is to then let Israel let her guard down so that they can destroy Israel. This is the plan. This is the agenda. This is the Muslim way. Interesting book if you enjoy difficult reading, the kind of reading that makes you want to put the book down and walk away for a while until your blood pressure goes back down. You may want to get a copy of the book Philistine. I happen to have a few extra copies if you wish. It's written by Ramon Bennett, and I want to quote for you from his book. He says, Arabs hold to a strong belief in the proverb that they can remedy the present only with the remedies of the past. Muslims look to the past, not just Hitler, but also to the two most famous figures in Islam's long history of warfare, Muhammad and Saladin, in order to remedy the present. Their concept of peace is the same as Muhammad and Saladin, a coin one must pay to achieve something else. What's that something else? The destruction of Israel. How? Vis-a-vis peace. Peace for us means the destruction of Israel. This peace that Hamas all of a sudden is talking about for 10 years, or that Daniel prophesies for 7 years, will be the catalyst to then destroy, or at least attempt to destroy. They won't succeed. God will intervene, but they will attempt to destroy Israel after they make peace with Israel. And isn't it interesting that in Ezekiel 38, when this allied attack comes against Israel, they have let their walls down. They have let their guard down. How many of you know about the wall that Israel has been building to keep the terrorists from, coming in? And I don't like suicide bombers. They're homicide bombers. They're murderers. They're terrorists. They're evil. And by the way, let me just go on record and say that Islam is not a peace-loving religion. Islam is the antithesis of everything that Christianity is. Islam is a religion of hate. Islam has at its core the annihilation, the extermination, the termination of the nation Israel. And it will stop at nothing until it accomplishes it. Now, having said that, I find it interesting that the prophet Daniel describes this man. He's called the Antichrist. He will come on the scene. He will confirm a peace agreement. It will last for 7 years, which will be this 7-year tribulation. And then once Israel has accomplished peace, finally, so they think, and Islam has deceived them into thinking that this is peace, so they think, then all hell, quite literally, breaks loose.